I'm Rosa, welcome to the channel. So, I have a lot of wrapping up to do here in January because I didn't get a chance to do it last month. Along with that, we have a lot of wrapping up to do for the last 4 months as well. So we're starting out with the books that I read in November and December. I decided to include all of those in one video. There'll be another one with the September and October books as well because I didn't get a chance to talk about those either. So, and then all of the other 2023 wrapping up that I'm so behind on. It's gonna happen, okay? But today I think I have 11 books, 12, something. I wrote a list. I have 11 books to go through with you. There's a good mix of romantasy, fantasy, romance, and there's a little bit of middle grade in there as well, so I think we got a bunch to go through. If you want to check out any of the books, I will just say that I always leave links to the books in the description box down below because I realize that sometimes I suck at summarizing books. So if you're confused about anything, you can go read the summaries by clicking on the links. However, we're going to start out with, I can't remember what month this was the primary pick. It might have been November. I cannot remember. Or maybe it was October. But The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashim. This is probably what I would consider romantasy, to be honest. I think it wanted to be fantasy though, but quite a lot of romance in it. Very much woven into the plot of the story too, so I would call it romantasy. If you're curious about the edition, it's the Lumicrate one, which is why it looks like this. In this book, we follow a girl who is actually the Jasad Heir. So the thing about the Jasadi people is that they have magic, and so they have basically, their kingdom has more or less been brought to the ground, but our girl has run off. She saw her parents get killed, but then she ran off, so she's still alive. However, the people that actually went after her kingdom, they don't know that she's alive. She's hiding amongst people. Still, Jasadi people are being hunted down and killed around her, but she's keeping her magic in check, so she's not gonna get busted for being a Jasadi. And then one day, how much can I actually say? Something does happen, and she's unfortunately having to reveal her magic to this very dangerous guy because he's the heir to this other kingdom. Not the Jasad kingdom, but another one. The one that basically brought down her kingdom. And he's also a commander or something like that. But he basically busts her, and instead of having her killed, he ends up more or less making a deal with her. So she has to be his she has to participate in a tournament on his behalf. There's magic involved in this tournament as well, and there's 4 participants total. All while she's also luring out rebels of his kingdom. So people that are trying to get them down, or take them down, I suppose. And so while they're working on her tournament, all the skills that she needs for the tournament, they also slowly get closer. He does have an interesting, I don't know if I can say, but there's something interesting about him and what he can do in contrast to her. And yes, so this is obviously an enemies to lovers. I will say, I don't really necessarily feel like I saw much of the chemistry working. I don't know. It was more oh, now we gotta get to this point with the relationship, so this has to happen. And so it felt very forced at times. I get that being true enemies and then moving into lovers is a difficult thing to balance as an author, but you can't just force things to happen without really, I didn't feel the chemistry. I'm sure that I'm not alone in this, but I'm sure that there are others that did. I just personally did not. I also think when it came to the tournament, so as you can probably tell, some of it does remind you a little bit of Throne of Glass. I'm not saying that Throne of Glass is absolutely unique, but it's so widely popular that when you find something without spoiling too much of Throne of Glass, there's a tournament as well, and she's taken from being a slave to a participant in this tournament, and there is another word for it. I just can't remember what it is at the moment. But and while she's there, she's growing closer. She's growing closer to whoever took her to this, I don't want to call it a master because that's ick. But whoever hired her, but she's not really hired either because it's either you do this or you stay being a slave, you either come with me and be my champion in this tournament, Or, I don't know, I could possibly have you killed because, hello, you have magic and you're not allowed to have that. So, I don't know, I do see a lot of similarities. I think I said that in the vlog that I did for it as well, for the book club. But the thing about the tournament is that when you get to a lot of there's so many like fade out scenes. Like, suddenly she's knocked unconscious, or suddenly something happens and then it just cuts and she wakes up the next day and she's talking about how tired she is. But like, what, how did you get to that point? Why does nothing, how can you just cut in the action so much? It bothers me. I get the book is long, like you don't have an infinite amount of pages, but it was a bit frustrating because I feel like it kept happening. And so I struggled a little bit with this, but I can see why some people would really, really love it. I just got a little bit frustrated at times, but I would like to see where it goes from the second book. So definitely still on my radar. I just, you know, it is what it is, but it's also a debut, so I will keep that in mind. I just wanted more action, and I feel like the chemistry was kind of forced. And at times, some things had to happen, like she had to force things to happen. The ending didn't really make any sense. Like, you did not have to do that. Why was that your only, like, why did you feel like that was the only path you could take at the end? I don't feel like it was, so I don't know. But, yeah, hidden royals, magic that's forbidden, and enemies to lovers, but also kind of like, here's an ultimatum, so you're not here by choice necessarily, but like, we're gonna pretend you're here by choice. Yeah. And a lot of characters as well, I feel. Next up, we actually have a sequel, because I read the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Holly Jackson. As you can tell, speaking is a bit of a problem today. Haven't really done a lot of it up until this point. So, we're gonna struggle through that, but just go on. As they do say, the show must go on. So, we will. But this is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is YA mystery, kind of like thriller. Yeah, I would say thriller as well. And contemporary, and we follow a girl whose name is Pippa, or Pip. I'm confused because I swear they continuously in the book call her Pippa, but whenever I read the book, why did she, I swear, or maybe her actual name is Pippa, and the nickname for her is just Pip. I don't know, but I love her as a character. I think she is great. I think if she existed in real life and I was her age and we went to the same school, I would want to be best friends with her, and I will stick by that even though I'm probably like twice her age or something. I don't know, but that's fine. So in A Good Girl, I can't really tell you what this is about because it is a sequel, but in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, we follow Pippa, who is writing a summer project on something that happened in her town, city, a while ago, some years ago, because a boy was found dead in the forest after he was accused of committing a murder because, you know, they found a young girl dead, or a girl his age, dead. He was also young. Similarly aged people, 2 of them are dead. But everyone started pointing fingers at this guy, and then they found him in the woods, also dead. So generally the population there just thought, okay, well, I guess that's case closed. But Pippa's like, something seems off, and I want to solve what actually happened, because I don't think he did it. I don't think he was the one who killed this girl. And so she decides to do that for her summer project. And so we follow her as she's doing interviews and gathering clues and evidence and going through files and having phone calls and text messages and all that stuff. So it's the same one with this one. There's like interviews written down between, as you can see, like here's normal text, but over here you have, I think it's an audio file. Yes, it's an interview, but in an audio file. So she's written down a transcript of it. And you get like notes as well that she's taken. She also has a podcast, so there's some recordings from that and some text messages and stuff. But obviously this does not follow the same story as the first one. It's a whole different case. But I really enjoyed this one. I think it was nice seeing her struggle a little bit after everything that happened in the first book, because I think if a normal person went through everything that happened in that book, they too would struggle. So it's nice seeing like she doesn't just wave it off like everything's not fine. Her family as well is struggling because of everything. People are talking about her in the town, and you know, there's struggle with her friends as well, a whole lot of things like that, but also how the case in this unfolds is that it's cool to see, and like her basically being a little bit hesitant going into it and stuff. So I really, really enjoyed this. I still think the first book is my favorite of the two. I am planning on reading the third one this month, so we'll see where that takes me. It's a little bit thicker than the other two, so I'm a little bit nervous about that as well. But I'm very, very excited to basically binge it, because I think I more or less binged this when I started reading it. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. So yes, can definitely recommend if you're trying to like add a dash of something else. If you read a lot of romantasy or romance or fantasy, add a little bit of dash of like a YA mystery in there. These are so good. They're so good. So I want to talk about some audiobooks that I listened to, because I listened to City of Ghosts by V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab is what she's called as a writer for those books. And also Tunnel of Bones. Have not gotten to the third one yet. I think I borrowed it from Libby and then I just kind of forgot to listen to it or something. I don't know. We'll get to it eventually, but they are middle grade. They are fantasy, paranormal, because, you know, ghosts and all that stuff. And we follow a girl, is her name Cassidy or something, who basically, because she at some point almost died, she's now able to see ghosts and talk to them. And because she's like, you know, there's a veil between like our world and the dead people, the ghosts, their world. She like toys with that line a little bit, so like the veil is very thin for her, and so she's able to basically see ghosts and talk to them. I can't remember exactly. I think she's in Edinburgh in the first one, and then she's in Paris in the second one. I don't know where she's gonna go for the third, but do I remember exactly the story? No. This is a thing that I have with audiobooks. I tend to remember things better when I've read them. Or written them. Written them is even better. And so often when I listen to audiobooks, it kind of like goes in one ear and half out the other. So I think these two were mainly for just like having something to listen to while I was getting ready for my day or making breakfast and stuff, so it was cozy in that way, but I don't remember at any point being like amazed by them. I'm also not very big on middle grade books as it is. It's not a genre that I tend to sway towards or enjoy a whole lot, so shouldn't really be a surprise that I don't really remember much of them. I still think they were okay. I just don't necessarily think like they're not like, maybe they're like 3-star materials, like just kind of like somewhere in the middle of everything, you know? I am kind of interested in seeing what happens to her friend, because she has this guy friend who's a ghost. I can't remember his name, but there's something going on with him throughout the series, and I kind of want to see where that goes, because I kind of want to see where he ends up, if that makes sense. Like what ends up happening to him. I'm curious about that, so definitely still going to be listening to the third one at some point. Just don't know when. I guess it depends on when I can actually borrow it again, because it was returned without me listening to it. Whoops. And then another one that I read it as an ebook, so I read it on my iPad, is God of Malice. I think it's by Rena Kent. Yes, it's by Rena Kent. So it's romance, but it's like dark romance, seemingly new adult, but I would just call it straight up adult. And I have so many things to say, but like I don't know how to say them. Anyway, I was basically looking for something to read that I knew was going to be a little bit easier, so something not fantasy. Whenever I'm in like a busy headspace, I just read romance or something very contemporary, because it's just, no world building is preferable to me during those like days where I just can't understand anything. It's a little bit easier to read. So I had seen this series, Legacy of Gods or something like that, pop up on my Instagram time and time again, and figured, okay, let's put this Kindle Unlimited subscription to use. Let's just pick a book, and then God of Malice showed up, and I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna give it a go. The thing is, I can't really say that this is like good. Like, it's so unhinged. Like, it's so unhinged that I find it very entertaining that these guys are absolute psychopaths. Yes, to a point, because I started reading the sequel right after I finished this book, and I'm still not done with it. And I started this book in November, so struggling a little bit with the sequel to it. We'll see if I get interested in reading the third one after this one, but I thought at least I was so entertained by them being so unhinged that I could get through the second one as well, but it just, for some reason, it's not really hitting the same way. But essentially, in short, we follow a girl who goes to this school that is very close to another, it's like an all-girls school, I think, and it's very close to an all-boys school. They're like in their 20s or something. They're like universities, colleges, or something like that, so don't think kids. They're definitely young adults, but like not young adults in terms of like YA, but like younger adults, okay? The guys that go to this school are basically known to be like troublemakers, and a lot of them have mafia family, and they are completely unhinged. A lot of them have like trouble with violence, and the guy we follow in the first one, he's a straight up psychopath, and like an actual psychopath. I think there's even like a whole page at the start of the book where she's basically describing or like warning you that if you go into it, just so you know, this guy is supposed to be a psychopath. And he's definitely something. I will just say, whenever I read dark romance, I refuse to like fawn over the guys because they're messed up. I'm not kink shaming in any way whatsoever. Like what you like, I don't care. So that's not where we're going with this. I just want to say that some of the behaviors is a little bit questionable in dark romance. So I'll never be one of those like, oh, like Zaid from Haunting Adeline. I'm reading it at the moment, and I get that there's a lot of girls out there who are like, oh, Zaid, and I'm like, he's a stalker. My girl's friends, what? Like, he's actually a stalker. Like, I don't... Anyway, so this has a little bit of that. I haven't seen anybody like this guy, I can't even remember his name, but he definitely doesn't have the same kind of level of popularity as Zaid does, but he's unhinged. He's so unhinged. Like, he thinks about killing people quite often. He's in a fight club or something, and his friends talk about beating up people quite often. Like, there's so many wrong things going on here. I just choose to very much like, I'm very aware that I'm reading a book. Stuff like this is not okay in real life. So it is what it is. I can't actually remember if he kills anybody, but I guess I'm not supposed to tell you anyway because that would be a spoiler, right? Yeah. There's definitely questionable consent in it, which really took me by surprise. Having read some dark romance in the past, I still haven't really said what it's about, have I? You got the people. I think that's mostly the content as well. It's very smutty. A lot of it is spice. A lot of it has to do with them getting to know each other and like setting down everything, explaining the school and the whole like the area, because it is a series of currently 4 or 5 books, so there's, you know, books following this one. It's not necessarily a series like that, but they're all companion novels, standalones, so if you don't want to read the sequel, you can move on to the 3rd book. But a lot is described here in the first one that definitely was not described in the sequel, so a big part of it is that, but I think the main part of it is basically being shocked at his behavior. So, I don't know. I just think it's very important when you read dark romance to like remember that this is not okay in real life. Like, we're not supposed to fawn over these guys. We're not supposed to, you know? Is it entertaining? Yes. But also, if stuff like that was real, it would be a big no. A huge no. But with that, like, I don't mean the spice smut stuff, because again, no kink shaming whatsoever. I mean like his actual like behavior. Okay? Just like the stalking and Haunting Adeline. Not really there for it. Is it entertaining to read about? Maybe? Yes, but at the same time, also just recognize that this stuff does happen to some people and it's not necessarily like super funny. There's a balance. Anyway, but if you want to read about psychotic guys, it wasn't bad. I don't remember actually being like annoyed with the writing at any point. I don't remember being thrown off by the story or being annoyed with the pacing at any point. I do remember thinking, okay, that's smut-wise a bit much for me, especially here in the sequel. But yeah, I think that's all I can say. Shocked, but also entertained at the same time, but also a bit like, what? what the heck? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's where we're gonna leave it. I don't know if you got any information from that summary, but I hope it helped. And then we have one that I'm actually very, very excited to talk about. This was definitely this must have been the November book club pick, because we read a study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This is a YA fantasy, but that's set in like, not the now, it's like historical fiction, I think. Or just, or not historical fiction, because that means it takes place in our world. It doesn't. It takes place in an alternative world that is kind of inspired by our pastime, so like, it'll make sense in a second. There's also a little bit of like a mystery vibe to this, a little bit of like, I want to say like kind of horror vibes now and then, but not necessarily like in your face scary stuff. Just has like a vibe. You get what I mean? Like a vibe. So we follow Effie, who is the only girl currently to go to an architect school, because women are not really allowed to study certain subjects. So she really wanted to get into literature school though, and she wasn't allowed to because it's only for men. And so that's a whole thing throughout this. She's very, I don't want to say obsessed, because having just talked about God of Malice, that means something else in my head at the moment. But she's very taken with this author. She loves his work. She loves his work so much. She's very much into literature, so she wants to be a literature student. However, is not allowed to. And so she's at architect school, or school for architecture instead. And so one day I should probably say what his name is, that author. His name is, because it's a very important thing throughout the entire book. Emrys Murden is the author that she loves. So one day though, there's this post about a competition so someone has to win someone wins this competition, and whoever wins it gets to do like a renovation of his house, which is basically falling apart. And she wins it, so she's sent out there to the house to work with someone else who's also there. He's an English lit student. She kind of hates him because he ended up borrowing a lot of Murden's works from the library, and she's like super salty about it because she really wanted to read those books. But while he's at the house, is writing a paper on Murden because there's some mysterious things going on with his works and some questionable things, and he's like slowly putting pieces together. And then despite him and Effie not really getting along super well, they're not rivals, because that would imply that they're in the same field, which they're not. He's a lit student, she's an architect student, but they kind of have a little bit of that vibe still. They're not necessarily enemies, I want to say, but they heavily dislike each other at the start. And so despite this, he asks her can I say this? Yes, I can. He asks her to help him solve this thing that he's questioning about Murden's works. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. In short, as the two investigate the reclusive author's legacy, piecing together clues through his letters, books, and diaries, they discover that the house's foundation isn't the only thing that can't be trusted. There are dark forces, both mortal and magical, conspiring against them, and the truth may bring them both to ruin. I feel like throughout this whole book, you have this constant, like, is it real hanging above your head? And at least I did. And that's a thing. So I really don't want to say too much. I enjoyed this immensely. I can't remember exactly why, but I gave it like around 4.2. There's something about this dragged it down. I just cannot remember what it is, but I'm pretty sure that I wrote a review of it on Goodreads, so you can head on over there and check it out if you want to. But I would say, as I'm sitting here right now talking about it, I have a lot of positive thoughts. A lot of like, I remember feeling very excited reading this and like wanting to continue quite often. I have to like, whenever I do read the primary picks for the book club, I always have to make sure that I don't read it in one go. I can't binge the books, and it's been very difficult for a few of the books, such as this one. Also, Fourth Wing was another one. Like, I really wanted to binge it, but I can't because it doesn't make for good vlog content. And so you gotta slow down now and then. So this was another one of those that I was like really, it's very bingeable because you constantly have questions. Like, I'm not gonna say what the questions are, but there are many questions being asked. You can ask many questions while reading this. A lot of questionable things. Mysterious things. Love the vibe in this. Like, I was really, really feeling the vibe. A lot of commentary on what it's like being a woman in this, during this time, but also just because Effie is a good-looking girl. She's a pretty girl. And, man, I just... ugh. Makes me so angry. Not that she's pretty, but some of the things that she's subjected to. Like, even she starts to question everything. Like, it's stuff that I recognize myself from, like, for example, gaming. Like, am I being invited to this just because I'm a girl? Or do they actually, like, hang out with me? Like, I don't know. But also just all the comments they make about how women are the softer gender, or, like, the more emotional one, or whatever. I'm just like, please. Have you ever seen a woman punch a hole through a wall? I'm sure some of you have. I personally have not. But, like, I just feel like, no. I just feel like no. But a lot of those kinds of comments, a lot of misogyny in this, but not in a positive light. Just want to say, like, she's definitely not on the misogynist side. So, the author, I mean. Just a lot of talk about it, and it gets a little bit like, ugh, I can't listen to it anymore. I'm so tired of it. As in, like, I'm just tired of the world not being equal. Anyway, so... but yeah, it was lovely. I enjoyed it so much. It also means that all of Ava Reid's books are now on my TBR, which is great because it's not like I don't have enough books to read already. Anyway, another book that I read, it was actually an arc. I had an arc of A Study in Drowning, but I also had an arc of this one. It's Vengeance of the Pirate Queen by Trisha Levenseller, which is technically the third book in the, what would you call that? Daughter of the Pirate King series, I suppose, but it doesn't follow Alosa anymore. We follow her. If you've read that duology, she has like an assassin kind of friend, an assassin crewmate, if you will. We follow her. She's very quiet, very reserved, definitely not emotional, and it's a bit like, it doesn't follow her backstory. We do get some explanations on her backstory, and then we basically follow her as she's going through a personal transformation. So she opens up a little bit more and stuff like that. And can I remember the story in this? No, because I think it confused me at times, to be honest. Alright, she's sent out to find some girls. Alosa's team has always been female. Almost all of them. There's a few exceptions, but mostly female, and so some of her girls have gone missing, and our girl, Sarinda, I think her name is, has been sent out to get them back. Whatever it takes, get them back. So she ends up at an island, and something weird is dwelling underneath this island in like these like icy catacombs, and it turns out that it's a very dangerous thing. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh, alongside this, the whole icy catacombs thing, there's a dude on board that you might also have seen from the first two books who is crushing quite heavily on Sarinda. And he has patience. So despite Sarinda continuously telling him that, no, we don't have anything, we're not gonna have anything, it's not happening, no, just big no. He's like, I will wait for you, I'm gonna wait for you. It was cute. I don't think it was as good as the first duology is. I think I got a little bit tired of some of the traveling at some point, maybe, or something like that. There was a lot of like back and forth on the island as well. And I don't know. I got a little bit tired of her being so hesitant. Like, I get it. You need to continue, like, the character needs to continue telling herself, no, I can't do this, for there to actually be a romance story. If she at first chance just went like, oh, I guess you're right, there wouldn't be this kind of struggle, you know? But it got a little bit tiring after a while. And then suddenly she just changed her mind. Like, I don't know, like suddenly she just got it. Suddenly she understood. And I don't like that happening either, because then it's just like, for the plot. Like, there has to be, if she's been told the same thing 5 times before, out of the 5 times she's been like, no, that's not true, and then the 5th time she's suddenly like, well, I guess you're right. That's not a good enough point for me to be like, yeah, I understand why she changed her mind, because like she's said no so many times. I know I'm being super vague right now, but also I don't want to spoil anything, but it seems very convenient for plot purposes and for like, oh, we gotta wrap this up, come on. So a little bit meh about that, but it was still cool to read, still fun. Those books are like super short YA fantasy, so they're very, very quick reads. They're about 300 pages each. I think Vengeance was 350 maybe or something like that, so they're super fast reads. Can definitely recommend the first one if you are looking for something with pirates and a bit of magic and just an adventure book as well. I think the first one at least is an adventure book. And so they're just fun. Alosa is also a very, very cool lead character. Just want to say I like her a lot. So yeah, we got 4 books left. 2 of them romance, 1 romantasy, and then 1 fantasy. So it's a Christmas book, but Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. Adult romance contemporary. We follow a girl who has bought a Christmas tree farm, but things are not going as well as she hoped they would. Everyone loves this Christmas tree farm, but they can't really make it run, and something is happening as well. Something weird is happening at this farm. Like, someone's sabotaging it. So she decides to partake in this. It's like an Instagram competition essentially, but unfortunately she decides to lie in her application and say that her and her boyfriend bought the Christmas tree farm. The thing is, she doesn't have a boyfriend. So she decides to ask around if someone can pretend to be her boyfriend, but nobody's saying yes. And so her last option is her very good friend. What's his name? Luca. Yes, Luca. They have been friends for so long, and he's always been around, and he always wants to help her. So when she asks, of course he says yes, even though he thinks that... Actually, I don't think he said anything about thinking it was kind of weird of her to lie about it. I think it was just like, yes, I'll do it. What am I doing? What do I need to do? Yeah, the answer is yes, but what is your question? Like, he's on board right away. I wonder why. And so they decide to try to fool this Instagram queen when she comes to visit, to convince her that they're together and they bought the farm together as well. All the while, or however you say, meanwhile, the sabotaging stuff is still going on, by the way. So they have to solve that as well. This was cute. It does not fully take place during Christmas, but obviously Christmas is a very big part of it because our lead girl is a Christmassy kind of gal, and stuff, it also takes place during Christmas. So, Christmas? I think I've seen that clip too, you know? Oh my gosh. There's this clip of, what's her name? She was in Fifth Harmony. She sings, "It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas," and it's been stuck in my head. I'm sorry. But Christmas, the ending of it does take place during Christmas. So, you know, there's some vibes. Also, just throughout it, definitely like cozy Christmas vibes. A lot of talk about Christmas decor, them getting ready for the December and the month of December. And it's so cute. I am not much for Friends to Lovers, but this worked for me. This did it. It really did. And so I definitely want to continue these books. I think the sequel is actually about the Instagrammer and a guy. I'm not gonna say who the guy is because I no. But the sequel is definitely about the Instagrammer, or maybe it's the 3rd book. There's a story about her and a dude as well, and I so want to read it. So this was good. I binged this. I ate it very, very quickly. Just ate it up, loved it to bits. So cute. Want to reread it next year, most likely. Even though I'm not much for Friends to Lovers romance, but it just worked. It worked for me, so yes. Third last book is The Rebel King by Kennedy Ryan, which is the sequel to The Kingmaker, which, have I talked about that on the channel? It might have been a September read, so I might not actually have talked about it yet, which just kind of makes this a little bit awkward. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think this through. But these are adult contemporary romances, and I want to say there's some thriller vibes in this as well, definitely. There's a bit of a situation. A lot of talk about politics in these books too, like a whole lot of talk about politics. And so, very shortly, I'm not going to talk about this one too much in terms of the story because I'm pretty sure that I read the other one in September, so we're going to talk about that in the next wrap up that's up, where I talk about those books from September and October. But I did really enjoy this. I think I read it as well during a readathon, a Christmas readathon, that I still haven't had time to edit, so it'll be up at some point when it's not Christmas anymore. But it's fine, right? I only read one Christmas book during the month, or during that weekend. But had a lot of, like, a good time with this, just like I did with the first one. They seem very, it's a very, without being dark, it is a very adult, a very mature duology. And I like that because I think a lot of, don't get me wrong, I love rom-coms. I love them so much. I also love dark romance. But it's rare that I come across romance that involves people in their 30s or their 40s. They're very often somewhere in their 20s, like early 20s for new adult vibes, or maybe like mid 20s for rom-coms. It's very rare that I come across books where they're basically like 34 and 45 or something. And so, or 36 and 45, I can't remember, but like they're definitely a bit mature. And so that was really nice. It also has the vibe of like a mature romance. There's some spice in there. They definitely have like a, in that regard, a very healthy relationship. They're very active people. So there's a little bit of that in there, but I'm not gonna call it like a smutty book. There's just some scenes here and there, but not like, I think everything is gonna be tame now after reading God of Malice and Haunting Adeline. Like my line has been pushed. It's like, it was here and now it's like way over there. And I don't know. People can come up with new things all the time and I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, but I really like this this duology, so I would definitely recommend, but just politics, if that's not your thing, do not get into it. If actually I'm gonna take that back, so because I don't know, that could be so very much misunderstood. You'll never know what I just said because I've cut it out of the video. But just be aware that like it's not dark. It's mature and a lot of talk about politics. So if that's not your thing, don't go into it. But if you are looking for something with also a little bit of like thriller action in there, you know, it has that too. Also talk about the environment as well. A lot of like interesting points made actually. I really enjoyed this duology, yeah. So I would recommend. I would. I think there's a third book as well. I just don't have it. I think it's about our lead girl's friend. But that's all I remember. There might be a fourth one, I don't know, but definitely a third one. Then, for, I think this was December, primary book club pick, we read Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mira. And this is like, I want to say this is romantasy, not spicy in any way whatsoever. Very humorous, very humorous. Definitely not an enemies to lovers, but like, what's not delusional? What is the word? It's not delusional, but like unaware people to lovers maybe. Or not necessarily like even lovers, because this is the first one in a trilogy. So she has announced that the title for the next one is Apprentice to the Villain. I'm very excited for it. I really enjoyed this. What was it? I got a little bit tired of some things at some point. Like there was definitely a little bit of like a teleportation issue with our lead guy now and then. But also I think I got a little bit annoyed with basically every single ending of a chapter was a cliffhanger. I get that you're writing it like that to get people to continue reading it, so they're binging it. They feel like the plot is moving and so on, but like the first sentence in the next chapter basically ignores the whole cliffhanger or just undoes it. Got a little bit tiring after 5 chapters. It got a little bit tiring. I also recognize that while this is funny and humorous, it is a bit too much at times. Like it's a bit, my humor is very random, so it should fall like right in, it should be like right in my cup of tea completely, you know? But even I felt like it was a little bit much at times. You also have to know when to like tune it down. And I get this is reviews are always subjective, so I might not share this opinion with everyone else, and that's okay. If you found this book perfect, then that's completely okay. I respect your opinion. I just personally feel like it got a little bit annoying after a while that everything had to be funny. And these like super random cliffhanger moments, and that are just completely undone the next moment. Did I like the twist? Yes. Did I see it coming? Not really. I don't know. I didn't even consider it. I didn't even consider it. I don't know. So, have I even said what this is about? No, I haven't. But we follow a girl who is the assistant to the villain in this. There's a villain, like the villain, right? And he's like up against the king. And so one day while she's in the forest, she's walking home from work or something, she bumps into the villain guy, and basically he's like, you have to hide with me because these soldiers are after me. Fast forward a bit, she's now his assistant. But someone who works at his office is trying to sabotage him. trying to possibly have his whole palace, is it a palace? Castle? Maybe? I want to call it, in my head it was castle. Blown into pieces, for example. Like, someone's definitely trying to sabotage him. He's trying to sabotage the king, but he's like, I don't think it's the king doing this. And so, I mean, like, the king himself at least. And so he asks our lead girl, Evie, yes, if she can help him find out who's the mole in this office castle. And so they have to work together to figure out who's thwarting the villain's plans. And I did not call who. Like, I did not call who it was. At all. He's cute though, the villain. I mean, he's nice. Is he slightly psychopathic? Yes, but in a funny way, if that's a thing. So not like God of Malice, but like, you're kind of rooting for him at times as well. I don't know. Does he sometimes have heads placed on spikes? Yes. Or dead people hanging from the ceiling? Yes. But it's like waved off a little bit too, so you're not like dwelling on it too much. It's not described in gory detail either, so like you don't really know what he's done to them. He is described to enjoy torture though, so like he's slightly psychopathic, but he also has feelings. There are some, so he's not psychopathic. He's just slightly, it makes sense. But there are some chapters from his point of view as well. I enjoyed those very much, but I'm also very much into the whole he fell first thing, and like we're aware of it, but our lead girl isn't, and sometimes our lead guy also isn't. It's just the way that he talks about her, you're like, my guy. I'm very much into that vibe. So, but yeah, some things about this book did annoy me, so I wouldn't say that I found it perfect. I think I gave it like 3.8, something like that. I can't remember, maybe 4. It was enjoyable, funny, but just has some annoying things to it, so. And lastly, oh, I read this. I did, and I'm so proud of myself. I had the time of my, oh, taps. I had the time of my life with this. I read Nevernight by J. Kristoff, and I loved it so much. My chair's making noises. So annoying. But this is a very, very bloody adult fantasy. We follow a girl, Mia, who lost her family when she was a child. They were basically killed pretty much in front of her. And so as a teenager, she's kind of grown up on her own, only with help from this guy. I can't remember what the term she uses for him is, but he's basically like a teacher to her. And so he's been teaching her to become an assassin, but she has to go to this school to actually become the assassin there. He's just kind of like a pre-teacher thing. And so as a teenager, that's basically her goal. She has to be accepted into this school as one of their blades, go through the different trials that they're doing. It's a school, so like, let's call them exams, except it's not, because it's a competition at the same time. I know. Because she wants revenge on the people that took down her family. But the thing about this school is that everyone who goes there has killed someone. Because it's one of their requirements to be accepted into taking classes and stuff. Like, you have to have killed someone. They're all killers. They're all assassins in the making, and so you can't really trust anyone when you go there, and they're all in this competition to become blades up against each other. So Mia doesn't really, she's in a situation. It's a situation. Also, she has shadow powers. I'm not gonna call her a shadow mommy because she's like 16. Just want to say. But if she was older, she would be very, very cool with her shadow powers, you get what I mean? She's actually very, very cool as a 16-year-old as well with her shadow powers. Just saying. And she also has a cat. That's not a cat. That's made out of shadows. So it's not a cat. His name is Mr. Kindly. He's a part of her powers. It's difficult to explain. You will get it partially explained in the book. Not completely, but partially. And so that's the thing as well. But this is very, very cool. Very bloody, very gory, very, like a whole lot of blood. There's so much blood in this. And I loved it. I thought it was great. This had me so entertained. Like, you kind of know, oh right, there's murders happening at the school, but like other students are being murdered. So, I don't know. But like, you kind of know, but at the same time you're like, is it though? And then it's a bit of a mystery vibe to it as well, I suppose, you could say. Loved the ending. Very excited to go into the sequel. I have both 2 and 3 as hardback, so I'm very much happy. I'm very happy that I enjoyed the first one. Otherwise, I would have been very, very sad that I bought. These are so pricey. Adult fantasy books as hardbacks are so pricey, so I would have been so sad if I didn't like it, because, you know. So, oh, there are also footnotes. They basically, this is a funny thing, they basically, you don't have to read them, but We're gonna show you an example. But they basically do like a little bit of world building now and then, explain some terms, or, you know, so some of them are very long footnotes and some of them are shorter. This is describing the color purple and its role in this world. Somewhere else, let's see, this is a footnote that lasts 2 pages. This is a bit of an explanation of, when I say 2 pages, it's from here and then there's a bit on the next page, but it describes something having to do with the Red Church, which is the school that Mia goes to. So there's just like a little bit of like world building now and then. You don't have to read them, which is why they're footnotes, but you're free to if you want the world explained a little bit further. Also small comments now and then, just like small humorous comments. One of the guys is very happy with his knife. He tends to talk to it, and some comments are made about that, for example. So funny little bits, but also world building in those footnotes. If footnotes are not your thing, you can just ignore them, but just wanted to mention that they were there. If it's not your thing and you know you don't want a book with footnotes, don't go into it. Other than that, I thought it was great. I liked the like the flashbacks as well. I like Mia as a character, like her person a lot. I think it's nice to see her. She's very rough as a girl, like she has a hard shell, but at the same time there's something very soft about her too. The way she talks to Mr. Kindly, but also how she treats her friends at the school, and just her knowing her thoughts and stuff about her family and the whole situation. So she's has a bit of like a duality there, and I really enjoyed reading about it or reading about her. And I love the Red Church as well. I thought it was cool. I mean, I love the concept of it. I don't love what they do. Don't approve of it as a school, just want to say. I thought it was very cool. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I want to say. I love this. So for those of you who've been waiting for me to read it, there you go. I did, and I enjoyed it a lot. Now I'm just looking forward to Empire of the Damned coming out, which I think it is. Is it here in January or is it next month? I don't know. Sometime soon. I'm very, very excited for it. But that's all I got for you guys today. So a bit of a longer wrap up. Wanted to make sure that I got into detail with all the books. It's been a while since I've done a wrap up as well, so like I forgot how long you actually have to talk about each book. And so this video might be very, very long. I don't know. We'll see when I edit it. There will be another one for the September and October books as well. I think it will possibly be the next one that goes up. And then other than that, we have all the like yearly wrap up videos as well coming. And I'm really hoping to do a reorganizing my bookcases and also bookshelves here at some point in January. Got a lot of recording plans, but we'll see if I manage everything before the next, I don't know, 2019, 18 days are over. So wish me luck. That is all though. Again, if you want to check out the books, I will leave links to all of them in the description box down below. If you have read any of them and you want to share your thoughts, feel free to do that in the comments. But that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, but also all the other booktube stuff or some of the videos that I mentioned just before, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. However, I want to leave you to it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Oh, you know you're beautiful.